Hey guys, it's Mr. V over here doing a book review today for Six Sermons by Merritt. Before I get into my book review, I want you to know that I try to do a spoiler-free book review, so if you see me looking down, I just have notes, so I try not to give any spoilers away. So, let's get into the book review for Six Sermons by Merritt. So the main premise for this book is a very tight-knit church community. And there's a new pastor. She's a very young pastor, Pastor Alexis, and she needs to bring this community back together because they had just lost their previous pastor, and he was a very beloved pastor. And she is carrying a secret with her that the previous pastor killed himself. And she is carrying that secret, and the community doesn't quite respect her or respond to her, and she needs to somehow bring that back. But the secrets that she is holding on her shoulders is causing her to question her own faith. And basically that is the main premise to Six Sermons. Now, this is just a short story. It is only on audiobook. I mean, to my knowledge at this time, I only see it on audiobook, and there's no written forms. And basically this audiobook is all acted out, and there's a production to where there's background noises, everything like that is all acted out. Now, I would be very careful before you go into this, because I'd be careful with the subject matter, as one of the main things is a very serious subject. The previous pastor is a very beloved pastor. You know, he killed himself. So one of the main subjects is suicide. So just be very, very careful before considering this book, because it is a very serious thing. And while there are a lot of other subjects, you know, that is one of the main subjects. So I just want to give you a warning on that. Because this is definitely a very tough story. It's a very tough story, and the storyline itself is very tough. It's a very thought-provoking story, but it is a very tough storyline. So, you know, just be very careful. And because it was all acted out, which was really cool. I loved how it was all acted out. Because you hear sounds in the background, you hear their arguments, you know, if someone slams a door, you hear it. And that stuff is really cool. But it also, and it brings you into the story more. But because of that, you know, it feels a lot more real. And that's why I say be very careful before considering this story. Because again, it feels like you are there. And that is really cool. And I thought that the production was very high on this. I thought they did a great job on the acting of it. The people do a great job acting it out. And I'd say the person that wrote the script did a very good job on basically how people really act. So that also helped, because the people, they felt real when they were talking to each other, in terms of like how they talk, the decision making that people go through, and especially the tough decision making that some people have to go through, the leadership some people take, some of the people who don't want the leadership, and then the gossip behind the scenes, the judgments people do, and just a typical community drama. I thought that, you know, the person who wrote this book did a great job on that aspect. And because of that, I thought it was a very free flow, or the storyline was a very smooth flowing storyline, and that it went from one situation right into the next, and did a great job on that. Now, one of the things though that was very tough was that it just didn't draw me in. The story didn't draw me in. While it flowed smoothly, it just did not draw me in. And it wasn't like it was a bad story. It's not like it was that, but it just didn't capture me. Something about it just didn't capture me. And I think one of the reasons was that there was very little character development. Like I said, you could hear the characters, you could see all the fire, you could hear all the fights, you could kind of envision it. But because of the very little character development, I didn't feel a connection to the characters. And because I didn't feel much of a connection, it didn't draw me in. And because of that, I didn't feel it was that entertaining. And it did not have to do with the dark situation. You know, I think dark stories can still be very entertaining. But it just wasn't entertaining overall. Some parts were still very entertaining, but for the most part, I just felt it was not entertaining. And I understand that they're trying to like teach a message or send a message through the story. And I feel fictional stories can do that. You know, I've read many fictional stories that do that, but that's only if you feel that connection to the characters. And I just did not feel that connection to the characters. And that's why it didn't draw me in. Again, there were still some entertaining aspects of it, but for the most part, it just did not draw me in. And that's why, you know, I just found it just mildly entertaining. So I just felt that. Now, as for the writing style, I thought this was a very well written script, because I thought that they had a very well written script on like how people would really act. While I didn't feel connection to the characters, I thought they did a great job on how people would really act. But I already explained that aspect. But I thought it was a well written script, and I think it helped that it had great acting and great development to where you really felt like you were there. And like they didn't even have to describe the scenery. Like you could just envision it because you hear the people talking behind the scenes, you hear the doors slamming, you hear the cars starting. So there was some great development on this book, on this audio book. There was some great development for that aspect. But I need to reiterate, I just didn't feel the connection to the characters, which then again, it brought down the whole story to me. But let me give it my official rating right now. So I always rate my books on a scale of 0 to 10, with a 0 being an awful book, a 5 is an average, and a 10 is phenomenal. If you guys anywhere near 10, put that on your reading list, because I'm a very tough critic to where it's hard to move up even 1 point, and a 5 is an average. So for this book, 6 sermons, this was kind of a difficult book. I've been thinking about it over the last 24 hours, and the more I thought about it, the more it dropped in the ratings, to where I'm going to give this book a 3. It kept dropping, and it just kept dropping. And I think the reason being is that while it was a very interesting story and it was very thought-provoking, you just did not feel the connection, or I did not feel the connection to the characters. And because of that, it was only mildly entertaining. And as I said, it was a tough situation to where it just kept dropping the more I thought about it. And again, it was only mildly entertaining to me, and it was because of that connection to the characters, and that's why I'm rating it pretty low. But if you guys have any questions or comments, please post it in the comment section below. I hope you guys click the subscribe button, as I always upload multiple different types of book reviews. But thank you for watching my book review today. This is Mr. V. Go enjoy reading.